Hey, Alongsiders, welcome to the online gathering. Let's worship together today. Lord, we ask you to move in this place, wherever we are right now. Move in our city. Move in our hearts, God. When you move, darkness runs for cover. When you move, no one's turned away, no. 'Cause where you are, fear turns into praises, Lord. Yeah. Where you are, no hearts left unchanged. Let's sing that again. When you move, darkness runs for cover. When you move, no one's turned away. Thank you, Lord. 'Cause where you are, fear turns into praises, Lord. Where you are, no hearts left unchanged. So come move, let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. When you move, the outcast finds a family. Thank you, Lord. When you move, the orphan finds a home. Lord, here we are. Oh, teach us to love mercy with humble hearts. We bow down at your throne, Lord. So come, move. Let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. Yeah. So come, Lord. So come, move. Let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. Yes, Lord, King of all generations. King of all generations. Let every tongue and nation surrender all to you alone. You alone, Lord, King of all generations. Let every tongue and nation, Lord, surrender all to you alone. You alone, Lord. So come, move. Let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you, Lord. Back to your heart, Lord. So come, move. Let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. Lead us back to you. Lead us back to you. Lead us to your heart, Lord. Lead us back to you. So come, move. Let justice roll on like a river. Let worship turn into revival. Lord, lead us back to you. Yes, Lord. There's nothing worth more that will ever come close. Nothing can compare. You're our living hope. Your presence, Lord. I've tasted and seen the sweetest of loves. My heart becomes free and my shame is undone. In your presence, Lord. Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit, I welcome you. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for. To be overcome by your presence, Lord. Your presence, Lord. There's nothing worth more that will ever come close. Nothing can compare. You're our living hope, Jesus. Your presence, Lord. I've tasted and seen of the sweetest of loves, where my heart becomes free and my shame is undone. Your presence, Lord. Holy Spirit, I welcome you. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for. To be overcome by your presence, Lord, yes. Your sweet, sweet presence, Lord. Yeah. Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit, I welcome you. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for. To be overcome by your presence, Lord. Your presence, Lord. Your sweet, sweet presence, Jesus. Your presence, Lord. Let us become more aware. Let us become more aware of your presence, Lord. Let us experience the glory of your goodness. Let us become more aware of your presence. Let us experience the glory of your goodness. Yeah. Let us become more aware of your presence. Let us experience the glory of your goodness, Lord. Yeah, your goodness, Lord. Yeah. Holy Spirit, Holy Spirit, I welcome you. Come flood this place and fill the atmosphere. Your glory, God, is what our hearts long for. To be overcome by your presence, Lord, yes, your presence, Lord, your goodness, Lord, yes, your goodness, Lord.
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves a 99. I couldn't earn it, don't understand it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. I was your foe, still your love fought for me. You have been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves a 99. I couldn't earn it, don't understand it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me, Lord, Lord. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me, yes, Lord. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me, Lord. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me.
Chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves
chases me down, fights till from leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, don't understand it. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
Hey everybody, great to be with you. My name is Greg.
And I'm Josh.
We're going to kind of share with you a couple of life updates for us as Alongsiders and friends. The brand new podcast, Lectio Divina Lenten Podcast, is now available. It has been available for the last couple of days. We're super excited about it as we journey in this Lenten season together. That will just be hopefully a nurturing and nourishing resource for you. So check it out on any of your podcasting platforms. Subscribe, give a nice review. Have you been checking it out, sir?
Oh, yes. It's beautiful.
It is. Actually has his wife's voice all this week
Love it.
connected to the podcast, so you better say that. It's really important that you say that.
Yes,
hey, groups, we are in our spring session. Well, spring session is about to start early March, so check out the groups. Literally get online, check out the groups, alongsiderschurch.org, or even on the app, Alongsiders Church app, and you can learn about the groups, who's hosting them, the content of them, and sign up right then and there. Or if you want to go ahead, you can actually text the word groups to 855-909-1199, and you'll receive all the information via your phone. Moving down, March 7th, we are coming back together in person and looking forward to that. It will actually be one solid year since we haven't been together. So coming back together a year later is kind of exciting for many of us. So we're looking forward to that. There will be a registration link that will be coming out to you. We'll be posting on our social media and email it to you in just a couple of weeks, and you're going to have to register to be a part of that in person. Now, March 7th, this is going to be a little different because we're going to be live streaming and in person at the same time. And we're only going to have one gathering, 10 a.m., because there's just life that we need to talk about and celebrate because it's been a year since we've done so. So live, in person, and online, check it out, March 7th. It's going to be kind of cool.
It's a good day. It's going to be a good day.
It's a long time.
Excited. Yeah, man.
What are you going to wear?
A shirt,
Yes, that's good.
some pants.
I was concerned there
Shoes.
for a moment. You gonna wear a hat?
Maybe.
You've been wearing hats lately.
I have. It's,
Yeah.
it's
It's
good.
Josh's thing.
Hats
I
are
wear
good.
sweats, he wears hats. We're both old. It's awesome.
It's awesome.
Hey, Salt and Light, as you guys know, we've been doing inviting you to participate in the collective response called Salt and Light that will go directly to say thank you to nurses and doctors at Providence Gleason, little boxes that we're making, which we're actually going to show you here in another week or so, as well as it's an opportunity for you in your neighborhood to be a representation for the Yellow Bag Initiative, and you can find out about that information by going on our website. So more to come on that. We're actually going to be celebrating that on March 7th as we prep these 150 boxes that are heading over to the hospital. So more coming on that. Josh?
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah.
Yumia's Food Pantry, as I've said in the last couple weeks, it's been just going along consistently, and we would love to have some more volunteers for that. So if that's something that you'd be interested at all, we do second, third, and fourth Sundays. Volunteers show up at 1. We go till about 4 o'clock. It's usually how things wind up. We're following all the guidelines with that. The guests line up outside, and then they turn in a form that the volunteers build downstairs in the food pantry area, and then we deliver them up to the guests that come. And just continuing to resource our city like that. So come jump in with that as a volunteer if you so desire. Also, the garden day is coming up. The spring is around the corner. Snow is
We promise.
falling. It is coming. So March 13th, 9 a.m. Usually goes from 9 to noon. And we're going to be putting stuff in the ground, hopefully, like the starts that we have in the greenhouse already, building a few things. So jump in with that as well and serve all the food pantry, or all of the garden stuff goes into our food pantry and sources that. So that's just another way that you can serve and give back to the community.
10 years, Yumi's Food Pantry. 10 years we've been doing that.
Yeah.
Garden's been about what, 5 years, 6 years, something
5
like
or
that?
6, yep.
It's been amazing. So grateful for it. Hey, last things we want to talk about, as always, hey, collectively, we give together, we share together, we allow everything that Alongsiders is to be run through our resource, our personal family resource. And so there's different ways you can give through the website, the app, or even through the mail still. And these are just the links. If you stay in touch with us through the website and all of our social media feeds, as well as the app, we'd love to make sure that you have everything that you need to know. And those are the platforms to do it. Hey, it's been good hanging out with you today.
It's great podcasting.
It's just like, this is a first. We've never done this before. Sort of, not really.
Yeah.
Hey, some good stuff is coming right up. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Hey, Alongsiders, Camilla here. I am a part of the Alongsiders team, and today we are going to be talking about Whispers of a Different Way. We've been going through this series for a time, and it's really the Sermon on the Mount from Matthew 5 through 7, where Jesus gives this way to live. And as we go, there's these contrasting statements that Jesus says, "You have heard, but I say to you." And so today we have my friend Colette. Colette and I have known each other for maybe around 2 years, and our friendship has really grown through coffee and conversations about faith. So that is pretty much what we're doing today, is having a conversation about this topic that's pretty heavy today. And I'm just so grateful that you get to hear from Colette. Colette she's a seminary student. She's done quite a bit of schooling. I think she enjoys schooling, and I love that about her. And I love hearing from her. I love her perspective. Oh, so we are going to jump right in. The passage that we're reading today is from Matthew 5, verses 27 through 30. And it says, "You've heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I tell you, there's that, you've heard, but I tell you, that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell." Woo! We can all just take a deep breath. That's intense. Something that just even in reading that, I've kind of been digging into how we, men and women, we objectify people. In this, Jesus is specifically, he's saying something to men. Men, you need to not look lustfully at a woman. But I think if we're honest, this is a conversation for everyone. Yeah. I think, yes, of course, it's a conversation for men. I think that you should pay attention that Jesus is saying specifically men. But I think that we all can say that this is something that is a struggle, and really that this speaks to everyone today. I also want to recognize that we are kind of giving a woman's perspective today, which I think is a beautiful thing. And also, I'm giving my perspective as a woman. Not all women's perspective, but my perspective as myself as a woman. So I was actually mentioning to Colette that this weekend or last weekend we visited a pizza place that I'd been wanting to go to. And as we're looking around at the paraphernalia, I was with my husband, Josh, there was this T-shirt of a woman who wasn't wearing enough clothing, and you can just imagine what it was like. And I immediately was, there was a fire lit in me that it's okay. I wanted to talk to the owner. I wanted to know who allowed this, the sale of this, that it was there in this family environment. I wanted to know how this was okay. And as I was talking to my husband about it and was mentioning to Colette, we can all recognize that how women specifically have been objectified over years and years and years and years. And I think even Jesus, when he's talking about this, in this law, back in that day, a man could divorce his wife if she had an imperfection or if she couldn't have children or all of these things. You see the moment where Jesus is, there's this woman at the well who's going to be stoned for what?
Well, the woman at the well had multiple husbands, and Jesus called her out on it.
But you think about, okay, so where's the man in that?
Yeah.
Where
is he? It's true.
Anyway,
it's true.
I just, this objectification that we can, honestly, that any woman or man can be objectified. And I really think it's a deeper heart issue.
Totally.
And I think that's what Jesus is talking about. He's saying it's not just about, it's not just about committing adultery, but it's truly what is the heart of the matter.
The heart of the matter.
So
yeah, and that's all about the Torah too. So when you think about the law of God, when he says, "You have heard it said, but I say to you," he's not omitting the law. He's not negating it. He's giving us a bigger picture of it, and Jesus truly is the Torah lived out in a real life. And so when he says, but, he's really going straight to the matter of adultery. And like, even when as you were talking, the Old Testament, when it says you will not commit adultery, adultery back then, they considered it in a way stealing another person's property. So that objectification, in one sense, still was there in their present time, during the time that Jesus was teaching this. So
yeah, that's really good. I think something else that we were talking about was how sexuality it's a gift. Imagination, the imagination that God has given us is a gift. And so when he says, if you look at a woman lustfully, so obviously if you're just looking and you see someone who's beautiful, you can recognize, wow, that person is beautiful, or you can make a farther step and go down a road, create a neural pathway that is unhealthy for you. So what Jesus says, and what I believe he's saying, is that we need to recognize, and we really need to know what in that moment, what's happening, where are we headed? If you continue on, it says, if your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. That is intense. Holy cow. But when I was reading this, because I felt like what he's truly saying, what Jesus is saying, is that you have to do the painful, deep work of digging in. What is underneath? What is deep inside that is causing you to go after things that are not healthy for you? Yeah. And that can be a really painful work when you are digging up stuff from your past. And and so even in that, when it's talking about this, obviously I don't think Jesus is saying to actually gouge out your eye.
I know. The language is just so harsh. It's kind of hard to swallow for us, Hold on, I got to flip my page. I don't have a fancy screen like you do. But it's such a hard, gouge, cut, hell. There's so much in this passage that is, it makes us take a step back. But what I know, so we have to understand that Jesus is also talking to the Jewish people. He's addressing, so when we read this passage and we view it through the original listeners or the original readers of this passage, they understand what Jesus is saying, because the Israelite nation has been guilty of being an adulterous nation. We read that all over the prophets. And so they're hearing him in this really massive, ambiguous, hyperbole-type language. It's hitting them really hard, too. They understand that their nation has gone wayward. But I love when you study the gouge and the cutting in the Greek, it has this imperative tense to it. Imperative is a command tense, but it has a continual idea. So like when you were mentioning, it's painful to do that self-examination. And this gouging and this cutting is, in one sense, Jesus is saying, how can we eliminate this type of sin immediately and drastically? That's the verbiage, that's the tone. It's immediate, it's drastic. But this imperative tense in the Greek also creates a continual idea. And the continual idea is this: how do we form habits around cutting sin out of our life? I think is the heart of what Jesus is getting to in this passage.
I love that. How do we form habits to continue? And so what does that look like?
The thing about what I love about this passage is we're reading it and we get the whole picture. Like we're on the other side of Jesus being resurrected. We know that this passage is for us. He's for us. Yep. He loves us, and he doesn't want to see us be corrupted by sin. And so I think in one sense, it's like it is better to lose one part, to lose one part than to lose the whole. Right. And I think, in other words, I feel like Jesus is saying it's better to live an uncomfortable life than it is to live a life that's corruptible. And what does that look like? Like immediate and drastic,
right?
And continual.
Yeah, and that makes me think of even, this moment that I had of seeing this T-shirt, that it's really become the norm, right? Yeah. It's just become the norm that things like this are out there, and for maybe not everyone, but I think for certain people to look at that, you automatically begin to compare. As for me as a woman, I automatically, I was telling my husband, I compare, this person's shape to mine. And I know what I look like in the mirror. And so, so in this objectification of this, I am then objectifying myself instead of, I have to keep reminding myself that I am the beloved of God, that, I have this imperfect body, and it's beautiful. Yeah. Beautifully imperfect. But I think that piece of what has become normal, right? That, even I feel like, even when I was bringing it up to Josh, I feel like he started to roll his eyes at me when I'm like, hold on, no, listen to this with me, because would it be okay if it, in you can think of other circumstances or things that could be on that T-shirt.
Other T-shirts that could be hanging there.
Right. Would that be normal or okay? Yeah. And so I think even, without this recognition of this norm that shouldn't be normal, that there's actually an uprooting, there is a digging in deep that has to happen in order to not just to just be okay, to let these things just be normal.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the more normal it is, kind of the more drastic our measures need to be. I think, and this is the thing I want to continue to remind everyone, Jesus is for us. He is taking the time to teach his people because he loves them and he wants their whole person to be healed and whole. And so the drasticness and the immediateness of us needing to, in a sense, address the normal, what is normal in our society, is all that much more needed from us.
Right.
And I think about so many things about what we can do. Like, there's as we look at our world and we kind of take an account of what is around us and what's in our environment, and what are the steps or the people that we can, I guess, in one sense, connect with to help us gouge and cut, if we would use those terms. But we can use it. Gouge and cut, Jesus used it.
Right.
And continually, And what do you think that looks like?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because I was actually, this is a conversation that, the thought last week when Greg brought up the neural pathways and how you create these neural pathways, they're constantly being created with how you're living, how you're thinking. This is a conversation that I've had to have with my kids as I've schooled them. There was something I read once that it's almost like a marble, like you're sending a marble down a track, and it just continues to make this groove every time you send that thought or statement or whatever it is, or you do something, you're sending this marble down and it's creating this groove over and over. And so, for my kids, I hate math or whatever. Every time you say that, every time you're thinking that, you're just sending that marble back down. And that is a negative pathway, right? So to redo that, I was actually looking up, how do you change neural pathways, because they can be changed. It's really amazing. They actually, studies have been done on monks and meditation and how those neural pathways are drastically different and changed. And so I think there's such a hopefulness in this.
There is.
Jesus wouldn't say, you're living in sin and you're going to go to hell and, there's nothing you can do about it. But it's truly these practices, these things that we can put in place that can make changes to our neural pathways. Yeah. And I think, something that I read, there was a quote by Scott McKnight that says, "A steady inflow of God's grace, which I would say through his word, helpful words of others, and other things, can be transformative for plucking out the eye and cutting off the hand of inappropriate desire and lust." And so there is this hopefulness. We have to remember and recognize God's grace for us. But the thing about it, and I think what Eva and I've noticed in my own life, is the desire to want to ignore. Yeah. I want to leave it in the dark. I don't want to actually recognize it. And something personally for me is anxiety. I have dealt with so much anxiety and fear in my life, and I've shared about it before. But in order to actually deal with the anxiety and the fear, I had to acknowledge that it was there, and I actually needed to talk to other people about it, to let them know, I am so anxious, I am literally sick, or whatever it was. And so being able to see and identify that you struggle, that you have this problem to yourself and to someone else, and then also to observe what that habit or thought process is doing in your life. What kind of unhealth is it creating? To then know how, this need to shift focus, to actually use your imagination. This one place is saying that using your imagination to shift I talk about with my kids when they're having dreams, bad dreams or whatever, and I tell them, you need to like imagine something else, imagine something beautiful. And also, this has been a conversation even with my son of, I've always since he was little, because there's stuff everywhere. And we know, pornography is a really big deal. And what I've always told him since he was little was, if you see someone who's just not, you think they're maybe not wearing enough clothes, I want you just to give them privacy by looking somewhere else. And so it's kind of that same thought of like, I'm going to give that, I'm not condemning that person. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong. It's actually myself that I am going to shift, and I'm going to look somewhere else. I'm going to imagine something else. I'm going to move on instead of continuing to go down that path.
Yeah, that's a good word. And I loved what you said, that, Jesus isn't this is possible. Jesus isn't trying to set us up for failure. But, let's all be honest. This is a really difficult subject.
Yeah.
And this is a really difficult area for people who are battling this today, who are listening to this right now. And I want to assure you that Jesus has given us victory over this. But I also want to say that doesn't mean eradicating sin is going to be easy. It just means that it's possible.
Yep.
And so I just really want to encourage you that we do not want anyone to feel shame from this message. We want people to feel hope and knowing that there is a way forward when it comes to the sin of lust and sexual sins that lead into from lustful hearts. And so, this idea of drastic and immediate and continual that Jesus is saying through the words of gouging and cutting, I want to say, like, some of the things that come to mind about what we can do is we can just have strong boundaries. We can create boundaries around what I like to say, people and places. We can create boundaries around people and places. I don't know if you've ever heard this quote that you are the lump sum of the 3 people you hang out with the most.
I haven't heard that.
But you absorb the behavior of the people you're around with the most. And so it's good to take kind of a critical look at sometimes your friendships. And then places. Where are you going that you should not be going? And what does it look like to create a boundary around that place? And that also means the internet. Literally, a drastic measure is to cut the cord. You can cut the cord. Literally, if you want to take a pair of scissors and do it, or we're in the season of Lent right now. Today's Ash Wednesday. Lent technically starts tomorrow. Is that correct?
Yep.
The 40 days. And so this is a good time for this is a season of self-examination and what it means to cut out some of those vices in our life. I remember one of my most impactful seasons of Lent is that I decided to cut out TV. And yes, I still call it TV because I'm Gen X. And anyway, I'm used to saying Netflix now. But I remember I had this whole 40 days of no television. And instead, I actually just listened to a Christian conference. So when I wanted to watch my Vampire Diaries, I love all things vampire. But I was, before this season, I was just numbing out on these shows because I was in a lot of pain during a certain personal, painful season. And so I was just numbing out and just gorging myself on these shows. And so I cut it all out. I started, instead of watching a show, I'd watch a sermon or a teaching. And I cannot tell you, after 40 days of that, it was the most powerful thing that I've experienced till this day. And that was a few years. My relationship with screens is completely different after just cutting that out for a season. And so that's sometimes something drastic that you can do. And we're in a perfect season to start doing some drastic cutting of vices that I really want to encourage you to do and to think about. Some other immediate drastic things, like if there are some of you who are really, truly struggling with lust and with sexual sin, we really encourage you to talk with a pastor, to talk with a counselor. to seek out help that can move you in the right direction of healing and restoration for sure.
Yeah, we had mentioned Pure Desire Ministry is one that is local, and there is some for men and women, different groups that you can join, and obviously, yes, seeking out a pastor here at Alongsiders. Lastly, as we head to Eucharist, I want to take a moment to be reflective. We often take maybe a 3-minute reflection in the middle of our teaching, but today, since I felt like that would be a little bit hard, I'm wondering if you would take it now. And as we go into the next song, let that be your reflection time, and even after as you go into your day. But we have a couple questions, and they'll be, what did this bring up to you, this kind of conversation? And what struggle might you need to bring to the table as you partake of communion? And also, what might you need to confess to God or to others? And that is something that is continual. Just as we talked our Ash Wednesday service, this idea of repentance being something that is continual. It's not just a once-a-year thing. It's not a Sunday thing. It's something that we are coming to God continually, repentant, humbly, knowing that His grace, that steady inflow of His grace is always there. And as you take the bread and the cup, remember that Jesus said, "Do this in remembrance of me." And how do you remember Him? God is love. That's what He says about Himself. And so He is loving towards you. He is caring towards you. He is grace-filled for you. And so as you are being self-reflective in these next couple minutes, just remember that. And I would encourage you to take some time to journal about it, to talk with maybe you have some family members or people around you, but just to take this moment to be reflective. Thank you so much for joining our conversation, Colette. Thank you for being here, and much love to you guys.
There is a one who breaks my chains. There is a one who bears my shame. There is a one who leads me out of darkness, just one day. Sing that again. There's one. There is a one who breaks my chains. There is a one who bears my shame. There is a one who leads me out of darkness, just one day. Yes, Jesus, only you, Jesus, only you. We look to you, Lord. Jesus, only you. I cannot fall. In your arms I cannot fall. In your love I have it all, Lord. You're the one who I was born to worship. Just one name, only Jesus. Hey, Jesus, only you. Yes, Lord. Jesus, only you. You're the one who I adore. You're the one who I adore. Jesus, there is no one I love more. Jesus, you will always have my heart. You will always have my heart. Jesus, yes. Jesus, only you. Jesus, only you. Jesus, only you. You're the one. You're the one who I adore. Jesus, there's no one I love more. Jesus, you will always have my heart. You will always have my heart. Jesus, yes, yes, Lord. You will always have my heart. You will always have my heart. You will always have my heart. You will always have my heart, Jesus.